Hey guys and gals, welcome back to Drill of the Week. This is Drill of the Week number 11, Sliders. This is a no-frills, basic 3-octave octave slur flexibility study. So basically you're slurring between octaves, but you're slurring between 3 octaves. And that's the primary focus, with a secondary focus on staying relaxed when you get to the end of your air. And that will require a little bit of explanation, but I'll get to that in a second. So the basics of this study are as follows. I set my metronome today at a quarter note equals 100 beats per minute, and I slur octaves in eighth notes. So the first note that I'm starting on, because I've got a C tuba, is a pedal C, and I slur from a pedal C to a low C to a tuning C to a high C and back down 3 times in one breath in eighth notes. So the note changes are eighth notes, and I do it 3 times in one breath. Then I take 3 beats rest between series, and I go down a half step to the second valve. For me, which is a pedal B, low B, tuning B, high B, back down 3 times, one breath, 3 beats rest. Then down to B flat, or first valve, whatever tuba you're playing on, whatever key or instrument you're playing on, first valve. But again, we're starting in the pedal register of whatever your instrument is. And I do that, and then I take a break, a couple of measures break, let the blood flow back in, and then I go the opposite direction. I start on the low open fundamental, pedal C, go up, and then I go up, 3 beats breath, and then I go up a half step to D flat, and do it 3 times, one breath. Then go up to D 3 times, one breath. And then I take a break, and I bump the metronome up 3 clicks today. So for today, I'm starting at a quarter note equals 100, and I'm going in increments of 3 beats per minute up to 130. If you need to start slower, I encourage you to start slower, but it's a balancing act because of how much air it takes to do it in one breath. So I encourage you to start it as slow as you need to learn it, and take as many breaths as you need to learn the study. But when you feel like you're competent at it, do it with the breathing scheme that I'm outlining here today and demonstrating on the video. So your main focus is on treating all the different registers as if you had an octave key, like a saxophone or whatever woodwind instrument, and you're just transitioning between all the registers, all the different embouchures, using the air in your ear. I don't focus on the different octaves that I'm trying to hear so much as I just focus on a drone of the note and its respective octaves that I'm trying to play. I keep that firmly fixed in my ear, the tuba in the head, so to speak, and I just really focus on the air streams and transitioning the air streams. What do I mean transitioning the air streams? First, take a big breath, but stay relaxed, which is really hard. We'll talk about that in a second. Big breath. For the pedal register, obviously the airstream is a big, round, slow airstream. But then I've got to shift it to go up the next octave to a slightly less big airstream that's a bit faster. Then when I get to the middle register, the airstream again is a slight bit smaller but faster. And then ultimately the high C, or the high open note in the series, is much smaller and much faster. And that's how I achieve the octave displacements, is through thinking about the airstream. Now, in other flexibility studies, I say don't micromanage the air, but that relates to flexibility studies that are in a general tessitura, middle register, upper register, low register. This transitions all those registers, so you really have to commit to hear the drone pitch that you're going to be playing the octaves of, and then focusing on the air and what kind of air each note needs for the respective octaves. If you keep that in mind, you'll be golden. If you think about chops and what you need to do with them to try and affect those octaves, you're going to be far less successful and you'll be less flexible. Side note, general warning on flexibility studies, make sure you don't cram the mouthpiece on too hard. Monitor the mouthpiece pressure. You don't want to use a lot of mouthpiece pressure. It'll trap your chops and they won't be able to adjust in the airstream that you're changing to affect the octave changes. I think that covers the basics there of any questions I might have, or you might have about what I'm doing in the video. Now, the second focus that you have to keep in mind, and I use this I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone on this study, is I'm trying to teach myself to stay relaxed when I'm at the end of my air. And what does that mean? What is the end of my air? The end of my air is when I've blown air out of my lungs past that 50% level, and I'm now having to recruit muscles to drive the rest of the air that I've got in my lungs out of my body, across my embouchure, and create vibration. Now, as Jake used to say about pushing air out, and think of muscular contraction when you're in the breathing process or the exhalation process, that creates tension, and tension kills tone. It also kills flexibility. But as tuba players, unfortunately, we're forced to go there more often than we'd like. Both when you're pushing air out because you're past 50%, you're less than 50% air capacity, and also when you're forced to take a really, really big breath and you feel like you're a balloon that's getting ready to explode, that creates tension too. And either kind of tension is bad for you, but if you never visit it, you never familiarize yourself with what that tension feels like and how it's going to manifest in your playing, you'll never be able to A, be aware of what it's doing, and B, how to counteract the negative effects that it has on your playing. When I do these studies at the slower tempos, I take a really big breath and I do 3 iterations in one breath. By the end, I'm at the end of my air. I've probably got 5% left, just enough to push out all the way through the last pedal note. And you'll hear it. It doesn't sound really big and rich and full. And dynamic's not your primary focus, just tone production. Just get all the notes to occur in the slurs. Then you have 3 beats to turn it around from being really have pushed a lot of air out to getting a whole lot of air right back in. And then you go down a half step or up a whole step, depending on where you're at in the study. So when you get to those points and you feel that tension that's created by collapsing and trying to get all that last bit of air out to keep your chops going through the slurs, you still got to keep this part of your body free and relaxed as much as possible and really focus on upper body tension management. What happens is the tension that's created from getting empty here in your breathing apparatus tends to want to start creeping up and migrating into your neck and throat and ultimately into your chops. And you don't want that. But how do you fight it? Well, you do these studies or other studies that force you into a similar situation. Again, it goes back to the notion of we bleed in the dojo, so we don't have to die on the battlefield. Do this in the practice room so that you're comfortable being tense and still creating tone. It really pays big dividends. So anyway, I go all the way up to a quarter note equals 130 today on the video in eighth notes. The only other thing that I could say about the study is when I get to 121 beats per minute, I add an extra 3 beats of rest between each cycle, just because at least today when I was doing it, I really started to feel the tension build to a point where I couldn't manage it and get the octaves to come out cleanly and reliably unless I gave myself a little larger window of opportunity to take breath in. So that's the only caveat. I go 3 beats rest between everything in the series up to 118 beats per minute, and then at 121 beats per minute I added extra 3 beats rest between each series. I think that's it. If you like these, please like it on the YouTube video. And that's drill the week number 11, sliders. Thanks.